See a lot of familiar names. Happy to have you here. It's all good. All right. So in the display that I'm showing you, you can see, the futures in the upper left here, that they're up here a bit. And whenever we look at the futures as to where they are now, we look at the chart to see where were they. So I remember the YM was up, what, 100 and, well, that's changed from open. It was up 120 last night, now 180. So the question is, where is it now? And it's still trading inside of last week's range. So when I look at this, I think, well, what's ever up doesn't really mean anything at this point other than it's better than down or sideways. And so looking at the 60-minute chart, what we see is that it's just going sideways here. And that high and that low are reference points. And then the overnight high and the overnight low, because it gapped up, which is getting tighter. So as we go into the open here, we're really neutral, a little bit positive, but neutral. It's not going down. But look at the daily chart. It's an inside day so far. So I think Dan had mentioned this, that, in a situation like this, what we really want to see is probably some sideways price action. And then we see the direction. And, I've been thinking bullishly since down at the bottom here when the breakdown bar failure started, and it's been a choppy grind pushing higher. So we're really going to be a bit of a wait and see. And Friday was, sold into, as you can see, these are the daily charts of the spiders, Qs, transports, and the Russell all have red bars. The Russell has been showing relative strength, and you can just see that by its relationship to the moving averages, where it's above the moving averages versus the others, which are below the 50, caught in between. And on Friday, I was thinking that the spiders would be able to push up toward the 50. That didn't happen. Right after the first minute or so, minute and a half, the selling came in and it continued throughout the morning and pushed prices lower. So really not much to go on here. First thing, I was hoping for a gap above, to gap above the high of Friday's red bar. So looking at the spiders, they're at 267.12, and 267.12 isn't going to get above the high of those spiders. So if they can hang here, go sideways, well, then we get above it, and we would then look for that to continue, possible stopping point of this unfilled gap right there. Qs, similar situation across the board here. Trading 162.50, so still not above Friday's high. And Russell is actually pushed down a little bit here. Doesn't really mean too much, but just grinding away here. So S&P futures getting close to the high, but so we got this bottoming pattern. I wrote about this in today's letter. This bottoming pattern, but declining moving averages, and let's just drag this over here. The resistance is up in this area here. And so that's where you've got the overlapping bars. And so let's just open this up to get a better view of what I'm talking about here. Okay, so Here's that Head and Shoulders bottom that I showed last week. So if we can get through here, even though the 50 is here, we really have a void up above into this area. So as long as prices don't just gap up and crap, as we say, we're going to look for them to continue to go higher to the next resistance area. So looking at these in multiple time frames, getting a, an overall view with those multiple time frames is a big help. And lastly, I'll just see what time it is. We got a few minutes before the open. All right, so the NQs, that line I got to get rid of. That's your next reference point on the NQs up above 6,800, 6,850-ish. And the Dow would be at around 24,800. And don't need to draw any fib lines, no trend lines, diagonal trend lines, so on. Just look to the left, see where there's some congestion, and that's your reference point. Sometimes the moving averages line up with those reference points, other times they don't. However, on the daily time frame, the 50-period moving average on an indice is going to come into play the majority of the time because that's what institutions look at, the 50 and the 200. Now they look at the 20 as a short-term moving average. They look at simple moving averages. They say, well, Greg, how do you know they look at simple moving averages? Well, because I've looked at the exponential ones and I see they are inconsistent as reference points, but many believe that they're better because they update faster, and they're not. When you use something subjective like a moving average, like possibly a trader pivot lines, those are things that the majority of traders that decide to use that type of subjective tool, they're all using it. And so who doesn't put a 50, well, maybe not a 50, but a 200-period moving average on a daily chart of the S&P 500? Probably anybody that has a chart, for the most part. Oil continues to act well. It's cleared this resistance. It's got room. So as long as it stays above this major support point down here, now we give the benefit of the doubt that it'll continue to go higher. So it's pulling back here today, hitting that minor support and holding up. Gold had a good week last week, but now just slopping around. Actually, the gold miners look better than gold. Having cleared some resistance here and the 200. So we may come back to these during the week to see how they look and if there are any possibilities there. As far as stocks on the move, so we've got a couple of minutes before the open. Positive open here, but, really not looking at anything here that's just jumping out and saying, like, I'm looking at it, wow. I mean, this ALKS, this has been smashed. That's gapping up. It may be worth a gap play consideration since it's gapping above resistance. And, well, Boeing's popping up, but even look like NVIDIA up 20 cents, which has been a flyer. The financials aren't showing any strength. Citi down 34 cents. JPM only up 17 cents. These are after clobberings. Netflix is reporting today. Be aware as far as Yahoo Finance. They say they're going to report at 12:05 this afternoon. And if that's accurate, I don't know if that's typical for them, but be aware, if you have open positions and Netflix comes out, I mean, it can cut both ways, obviously, but it's been grinding higher. So there's an expectation that it's going to report well. So, and it is up 4 points. You can see the chart here as it's moving up near the prior high right there. And Intel up a little bit. And overall, we really don't have a lot of stocks that are moving big, whereas like the Markets were gapping above the high of the red bar. All these stocks are doing well and gapping above resistance. And, we want to go for 5-minute high entry points. Good morning, Fabio.
Yeah, Greg. Yeah, we lost your chart.
It still shows here. Hold on. This must be a Zoom thing. All right, well, let's kill the